there's only one of you, right? There's only one of you. And if you don't have systems in place to either delegate things out or hire co-coaches or whatever it is, whatever you want that to look like, there has to be a system in place in order for you to successfully scale and grow. Otherwise, your business is going to be completely dependent upon your butt being in the seat.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the quantum coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this.
Welcome back, Badass Manifester. I'm so excited because we are going to be getting into some details today, talking all things systems and scaling and organization in your business and your life, because honestly, these tools can translate to all those areas. We all need, who doesn't need organization in their life and in their business? Raise your hand. Nobody's hand is raised right now. But I'm really excited because I have Courtney Lazar here, who is my online business manager. She has helped me scale my business to a whole nother level. And she is an online systems educator who is super passionate about helping online coaches, entrepreneurs to really systematize, organize, and scale their businesses by creating lean systems on the back end that help you grow like nothing else. And I'm excited to pick her brain today and have her share with you things that you can implement right now into your business to help you get to that next level. So Courtney, hey girl, hey.
Hey. So excited to be here. I feel like this episode's probably long overdue for us because we've been working together for so long now. I'm like, this is probably a pretty good idea for us to have.
I know. I'm like, how does this not happen yet?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So share a little bit about, how you became so passionate about what you do and systems and organization, because I know for me, like my brain just doesn't work like your brain, and I just don't understand how your brain works. So just share with us a little bit about how you got here.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So when I first got started in this space, I started out, like you mentioned, as an online business manager. And for those that aren't familiar with that term, it's really somebody that basically comes in and helps run in the back end of your business, right? The operations, whether it's helping to manage teams, making sure projects are staying on track. That's really, we're more of the management and strategy versus implementation. So that's how I got started. But what I started to realize is as I was working as an OBM, my favorite part of my job was the systems. I loved going in and building out systems. It was kind of like a puzzle. But for me, naturally, like in my day to day, I'm a very organized person. I like my closet's color coded. Probably shouldn't admit that, but it's just something that's very natural for me in like my day-to-day life, right? Like I love organizing. I love finding ways to make things more efficient or more streamlined or planning my day. I was the kid like in the 4th grade that had a color coded binder and not a single dog-eared piece of paper. And so like those things just came very naturally to me because that's just like what I enjoy doing. And so I started making this pivot towards systems just because, again, that was my general tendency was to want to do that in people's businesses. And it's just kind of grown from there. So I'd say probably in the past year and a half, we've really the business has made a pretty solid pivot towards solely focusing on systems, specifically ClickUp being one of the big ones that we focus on. And it's really just been, a massive transition from there.
That's amazing. And I will say that Courtney, like the puzzle piece thing, like I'll come to her and I'll be like, okay, this is what we want to create. And I have no idea how to create it. And she literally just figures out how to systematize it and make it flow. And it's honestly such a gift that you have. And I know that you say all the time, you're like, oh, I'm not creative like that. But yes, you are. Like, this is a creative side that I think most people like wish that they had. It's so cool.
Yeah. See, and that's what I think too. It's like when people say they have straight hair and they want curly hair, right? It's like, I wish I had that creative side to me. Where copy's not my jam, right? Or like design, those things just don't really mesh in my head. But like the like analytical, like the data, the numbers, that all just, I don't know. That's just how my brain works. Apparently, the other side just didn't totally develop, I guess.
I still don't believe it. Anyway, so I'm excited to kind of dive into this because I think that online entrepreneurship and coaching, especially, people think, well, let's just talk about coaching. People think they come into the online space to be a coach and they just get to coach people and that's it. But actually, in order to coach people, you need to have a system set up that can allow the process to happen effortlessly. Like, for example, today, my mom's a new coach and she doesn't have an onboarding system set up. And so she was like really flustered this morning trying to figure out, oh, do I call her? Do we meet on Zoom? How do I send her the Zoom link? I don't know. She didn't have a system. And I'm like, girl, you need to get a system in place. And just, can you share a little bit about why that's so important for coaches?
Yeah. So that's a really good thing to kind of bring up, because I think 9 times out of 10, when we have clients come to us and they're like, we need systems in place, there's typically 2 reasons why, right? I mean, systems are just important in general and we should have them, but the pain points or the things that will happen in your business that will get you to the point to finally say, okay, systems need to happen, is either 1, you have started a business and you scaled quickly and you didn't have systems to support that scaling and growth. And so now you're on this like hamster wheel of constantly bouncing back and forth, being in reactive mode versus, being proactive. And you can't like actually focus on the work that you started your business to do, right? Like you started your business to be a coach because you're passionate about it. But when your business starts growing, you're not able to actually focus on what your passion project was because you're so busy scrambling in the back end. And then the flip side of that is you can't scale anymore. You will hit an income ceiling or a plateau in your business if you don't have systems to support you, because there's only one of you, right? There's only one of you. And if you don't have systems in place to either delegate things out or hire co-coaches or whatever it is, whatever you want that to look like, there has to be a system in place in order for you to successfully scale and grow. Otherwise, your business is going to be completely dependent upon your butt being in the seat. So that's things like no vacations, no time off, no sick days, right? Your business doesn't generate income without you being present, and nobody wants, that's not why we built our business, right? And 9 times out of 10, we built our business because we were sick of living that way. We didn't want that typical 9-to-5 lifestyle where we couldn't take a vacation or just choose what we wanted our life to look like. And so systems basically allows that to happen because we're able to delegate, we're able to hire team members, we're able to step back when we need to. So there's a lot of reasons why systems are important, but I'd say like those are the pretty hard hitting ones that I see happen a lot.
I think you explained that so great. And it's so true. It's like, without having them in place, you can't get to that next level, or you did get to that next level, but your system, you don't have anything supporting the next level. So it's like inevitable that it has to happen. I think I was like kind of in between that. I think I was kind of in a place where I just had nothing. I had nothing, you guys. Like I had no systems. I was flailing. And Courtney came to my rescue.
Yeah. I wouldn't say yours was terrible. I'd seen worse, right? Like I'd seen a lot worse. But it just goes to show like how much your business can grow, like when things like that do get implemented, and how much it makes your day-to-day easier because there's a plan for everything, right? Like, and we're not constantly in that scramble, like putting out fires mode all the time. And so I think that's really like where you'll start to see that transition. Like once those do get implemented, is you kind of have like, it's almost like a weight off your shoulders, if that makes sense. Getting out
really
of that cycle.
I can speak to that for sure.
Yeah.
And I was going to say something about in the beginning when I felt like I didn't have the solid foundation and the solid systems. it was hard for me to figure out what to delegate and how to delegate.
Yeah.
And systems actually forces you to know exactly what to delegate. Because I think newer coaches who have, they're the coach, they're the marketer, they're this, they're the graphic designer, they're the copywriter, they're playing all the roles. It gets challenging to understand what to delegate and how to delegate. I would love to talk about that with you.
Yeah, so it's a really good question too. So one of the biggest things that we typically tell our clients when we start working with them is we want to get an idea of what you're currently doing in your business, right? We have to have a square or, start zone number one. Like we can't just go in willy-nilly with this. So we have to have a benchmark. And what that looks like is typically we always want to start with our recurring tasks. Like that's the big place we want to start to evaluate our business, because that gives us a good idea of what we are spending our time on. And then what systems do we need to build around that? So whenever you're looking at your recurring tasks, this is what we have every person do, is you want to sit down and you want to make a list of every single thing you do in your business every day, every week, every month, quarter, every year, even down as far to the nitty gritty as I check my email inbox or I check my Slack messages. And the reason that it's so important to write down even these small mundane tasks that, don't seem like big, heavy hitters in our business is if we don't have those written down or documented what we do every day, and then if we get to the point we need to hire somebody, it makes it really hard for us to structure a role around the support we're needing because we haven't documented the things that we're doing in our business every single day. So that's where you really want to start, is making that list of what do I do every day, week, month, quarter, etc. And then when you review that list, you need to focus on, okay, what are the things that light me up? What are the things, that give me energy that I really, really enjoy doing? What are the things that I'm kind of neutral about? And what are the things that I just know I don't want to do, right? Like I'm not good at it. It's not in my wheelhouse. I don't enjoy doing it. So, for me, that would be copy. I'm not a good at that, like we just talked about. Be like writing social media captions or writing my email newsletter, things like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to mark those things. And then we're going to decide, what do we want to keep on our plate? What do we want to find a way to either delegate now or delegate eventually if you don't have a team yet? What do we want to automate? And I'll talk about automation here in a second. And what do we want to delete? And that's a big, big thing to focus on, because I think we just start doing things because we think we're supposed to, right? Like we don't, it's not necessarily serving our business. We're in a constant state of connection with our business, where we feel like we're seeing what everybody's doing in their business. So and so has a podcast, and this person has a blog, and this person has a YouTube channel. So I need to do all of these things, but that's not necessarily how you need to be going about it, right? It's not how you should be going about it. You need to be focusing on the things that are actually generating revenue in your business, or ROI. And it doesn't have to just be revenue. It could be traffic to your website. It could be resources, energy. Like, what is it actually doing to serve my business? And if it's not doing anything to serve your business, then you should stop doing it, right? It's just, we get into this place of we have to do it because we think we have to, and it's not actually doing anything. So you want to actually mark those tasks that you need to delete from your list. And that's where you're going to start with that. And so the reason I said I want to talk about automation is because I think there's a big misconception about what automation actually is. So 9 times out of 10, I'd say somebody associates automation with tech automation, right? Like Zapier or Zapier, however you choose to pronounce it. But a lot of people are like, hey, I want to come in and automate it. That I don't want to ever touch it again. I just want some like tech automation, so I never have to touch it again, which is great. And there are some instances where you can do that. However, there are 4 different types of automation. You have tech automation, which is what we just talked about, like zapping a lead in from Honeybook into ClickUp. You have templated automation, which are things like canned email responses. You have process automation, which is things like, okay, every time I put up a blog post, I follow a certain list of tasks that I do every single time I do it. That's a process or a workflow automation that is rinse and repeat. And then you have self-automation, which are the things that we do ourselves that are like morning routines, for example, would be an example of self-automation, like things that we do naturally in our day where we're automating our day-to-day life. So those are the 4 types of automations that you can kind of consider when making this decision, when you're going through and reviewing your tasks. But that's really typically where I recommend people getting started with that.
That is extremely helpful, I think. I mean, even just the delete, delegate, automate. There's another one there. What was it?
Keep.
Yeah.
Keep for
Like
yourself.
that alone, like these are so important to be able to like really see what you want to do with your business and like where things go and because I do think that like the new coach is so bogged down with all those tasks that they're not even aware that, oh, this is something I do every day. Oh, this, I don't have to worry about this one. I can worry about that once a month.
Yep.
No?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's something that I actually encourage my team to be thinking about too. Like, for example, if I assign a task to a team member and they've been doing it consistently and they're seeing like, hey, we're not getting any leads from this, we're not getting any traffic from this, whatever it is, I have empowered my team to come to me and say, hey, Court, this is the task I've been doing. It's generating basically nothing. Do you think this is something that we could just go ahead and remove, or I can allocate my time and energy to a task that is generating leads or whatever it is? And so that's another instance where you can kind of look at it from that aspect as well as with team.
That is so good. So good. Okay, cool. So once you figure out what needs to, what you're doing in your business and what needs to happen with what's being done, and then you're automating some of it. I know there's probably a question right now, like, well, where do you do this at? Like, where do you create these systems? Because I know that you guys have probably heard of like all these different systems that you could use for your business and which ones are the best ones for you. Because, if you go online and you type in project management system, 1,000 systems are going to pop up. And I think that is what creates a lot of like analysis paralysis for people, is because they're doubting which one they should go with, which one is, how do they know which one is best for them? So what do you find are the best systems for coaches specifically to use?
Absolutely. So whenever we start out with a system, let's say, because a lot of the times when you're a visionary or you've started a business, systems typically, we have people say, they're just not my jam, right? Like systems aren't my thing. Like I don't really know how to get this set up. And so we typically tell them to start with the big three for your virtual office, right? And these are obviously the foundational ones. There are more that I would recommend adding, obviously, but you want to first and foremost start out with a project management tool. So you want to use, you'll probably see examples of like Asana, ClickUp, Trello, Monday.co. Like, I mean, the list, like you said, you put in a project management system in Google and you're going to come out with a million different options. My recommendation for a project management tool is ClickUp, hands down by far. And there's a couple of reasons for that, because I know sometimes people are overwhelmed by ClickUp because there are a lot of features, right? There's a lot of features. It is a lot more customizable. But the thing with that is just because there's a lot of features doesn't mean we have to utilize them. Number one. Number two, you want to approach your systems from a mindset of scaling, right? You don't want to build systems around where you're currently at in your business, because that's obviously not where your intention is to stay. And if you build systems to support where you're currently at, then you're going to get stuck in that plateau again, because your systems aren't going to support where you're wanting to go. And to kind of like speak to that a little bit, like I mentioned before, I'm not a fluff person. Like I don't believe in fluff. Like I want a list of like action items and things I can implement in my business. And so when I first started my business, I didn't really believe in like setting a vision statement for my business or like my vision. But then what I found out started happening is if I didn't have a vision for my business, I started making decisions that had no trajectory of going anywhere. Like I didn't know like where I was going in my business. And I was saying yes to everything and my business was not moving forward and I didn't understand why. And so when I finally sat down and I outlined what my vision was for my business, like what do I want my life to look like in the next 3 to 5 years, and it's not just like my business, right? Like what's your lifestyle? How often do you work? How many days a week do you work? Like get specific about it. When I outlined what my vision was, then it made it really easy for me to start making decisions in my business. And so I kind of knew in Cosmo magazine, when they had those like little quizzes that you would take.
Yep.
And, if you said yes or no, and then like it would take you to another piece. So that's kind of how I view decision making in my business now. So I start at the very top, does this opportunity, client, coach, student, whatever it is, lead me to my vision at the end goal? Is at the end, does it get me to my end goal? And if it doesn't, that's an opportunity where I deny the opportunity, or say, you just say no, right? Like saying no opens other doors that you don't think it's going to. That was the hardest thing I think I had to learn for myself in my business. And so kind of how all this connects to systems and project management tools, and kind of evaluating that, recurring task list that we're talking about, is that's kind of what a benchmark you need to use to evaluate, do I need to be doing this task anymore? Is this getting me closer to my goal? Is this getting me closer to my vision? And you can use that as a way to really pick and choose what you should be focusing on. And so ClickUp, from that scalable perspective, is you need to go into choosing your systems with that end goal in mind, that vision for your business, that vision for your personal life. Because if you build out a system and you have to start from scratch and rebuild it when you're at a point when you're super, super busy with your business, then you're kind of screwed, because you've got, how many students that are relying on you to be present, to have, your energy up when you are potentially bogged down with a ton of back-end admin tasks. So ClickUp is really the biggest thing that I recommend for that, because it's going to scale with your business. So that is like, first and foremost, ClickUp, I look at that as the hub of my entire business. My entire business functions out of ClickUp. All my operational tasks, tracking students, like for example, like with, your business.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, I can't say enough about ClickUp. I mean, when we brought Courtney on the team, she was like, ClickUp. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we went from a small board on Trello to a like hooked up board on ClickUp. And it's not a board. It's another world. It's a hub for your business. It's literally what runs our entire business. That has all of our processes, everything in there. And we couldn't do what we do with QCA without ClickUp. Literally, we could not do it.
Yeah.
Or without Courtney.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally, it's how we run everything, right? Like we're tracking our students in there. We're tracking onboarding and offboarding. We're tracking, form submissions for exams, like every little thing that we would need to run a coaching business. We have found a way to customize and manipulate that in ClickUp, because the big thing too, from, an analysis paralysis or systems perspective, is a lean system. Just because there are all of these tools out there to use doesn't mean that you need to use them. So for example, type forms, right? Like everybody probably needs some type of form that they're going to have to utilize at some point in time for their clients. Well, ClickUp has a form function. Like you can integrate all of your forms into ClickUp. So you don't want a ton of different platforms, because it's also harder for you to introduce team members to. When you're onboarding new team members, you don't want them to be overwhelmed by a massive amount of systems that you're utilizing in your business. The leaner the system, the more efficient, and the less room you're leaving for tech glitches and tech error. So that's another thing to kind of think about too when you're approaching it from that perspective. Two other things I would recommend from a foundational system perspective is a communication hub. Like that's another really, really big one. And I think one that we all struggle with at some point in time. But again, we're in this space of constant connectivity, right? We have Facebook and Instagram and Voxer and WhatsApp and there's everything. There's so many different ways to stay connected. And there's pros to that, but the con is your quality of work is going to suffer, because if you have a million different ways that you're communicating with a client or a potential client, something's going to get missed. The ball's going to get dropped. You don't know where to go back and reference a conversation. And so I recommend always consolidating your communication into 1-2 spots tops. So an example of this for a coach may be Slack for their internal team and Voxer for their clients. Maybe those are the 2 places you choose to communicate. I really typically recommend pulling yourself out of email. Obviously, email is a good way for people to contact you from the get-go, but as soon as that person becomes a client or even a potential lead at that point in time, that's when the communication needs to flip to whatever, tool you have chosen to utilize. So like I mentioned, Slack, that is what I personally use internally for my team. We use it for Ashley's team internally. And so consolidating that communication is going to make it easier for you to scale and keep things not dropping the ball with your team or with your client. So that would be another thing.
Yeah. And I'll just give that another accolade. Slack has been a game changer for our business as well. Just putting all communication to our business through Slack has been life-changing because we know how to reach each other. And what's really cool about Slack too is that there's different channels. So if you have a channel, we have a channel for QCA, we have a channel for the mastermind, we have a channel for social media, we have a channel for the podcast, we have a channel for everything. So it keeps everything super organized as well. And I can hear the question coming in right now of well, I'm brand new. Do I need this? I'm brand new.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I think, it kind of depends. And this is also too dependent upon where you choose to communicate with your clients. Because if you want a super lean system, you can have all communication in Slack and set the expectation that you'll communicate with your client in a private Slack channel. So you can have private channels to where, other team members or other clients can't see conversations. And so if you choose to have clients in Slack and make it even, a simpler system than, having potentially Boxer and Slack, then for sure I would get started. I'd say Slack, if you're a solopreneur or a coach, that you haven't hired, any team members yet, you probably don't need Slack quite yet, unless you choose to use it for clients. If you get to the point where you know that you're going to hire a team member, I would get Slack set up before you onboard that team member. So they're onboarded with the expectation that this is where we communicate as a team. Now, that's not also to say that we don't communicate in ClickUp, right? Because all of our tasks are in ClickUp and things like that. So how I kind of like to explain it is I would use Slack to supplement communication for quick check-ins, like, hey, are we still having this meeting? Or, hey, where are we at with this task? We're using that to kind of supplement, whereas anything that's task related or project related is on the task in ClickUp itself. Again, that's when you get to the point you're working with a team or maybe a contractor or an agency, whatever that looks like. But I would just make sure that those things are in place before you onboard or hire a team member so that they're not coming into a chaotic mess and they're basically onboarded without a ton of overwhelm and stress and know exactly where to go to find everything.
I love that. And I would say if you are a brand new coach and you are just kind of getting started, I personally would still recommend ClickUp. If I were to go back, I wish that I would have started systems earlier just to have the organization. It would have saved me so much stress, so much time. And so, would you agree with that? Having.
Yeah, 1,000%. If you're going to pick anything, if you're just starting out by yourself, ClickUp hands down, because if you don't start tracking what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, things are going to get messy and you're going to get so stressed out. That's not to say that a to-do list on your desk isn't something that you can't utilize, right? I still, have a to-do list that I'll jot stuff down on, but I always have my tasks documented in ClickUp and I get into the habit of doing it, right? I know every single day when I sit down at my desk, I check ClickUp first thing. That's why I check my notifications and my tasks for the day, because that helps me manage my time and manage my to-dos. So that I 100% hands down, even if you're working by yourself as of now, use ClickUp 1,000%. Yeah.
Once it's all in there. So Courtney has an amazing course, which we'll talk about later, but she has all these, she'll teach you step by step how to set everything up in your business, all these systems and all this stuff without even hiring her privately. And what's really cool is that once you have these things set up, because I used to wonder, what do I even work on today in my business? But once these things are set up, you literally click on ClickUp on your computer and it'll say today, and then you'll have 5 things show up or 3 things show up or 10 things show up. And then it'll say tomorrow, and you can see what's on your task list for tomorrow. And I then knew that if I was to sign in and if I got all of my tasks complete, I'm on track for everything that I want to create in my business.
Yeah, 100%. And it's even things like, tracking, okay, I need to go live on Instagram today, or I need to go talk on Instagram stories. That was something for me that I had to put in as a task because I avoided doing it, right? I'm not the biggest social media fan or hopping on and talking on IG stories. And so for me, I had to make that a non-negotiable. And as soon as I put that into ClickUp, it popped up on my to-do list, every other day or whatever it is. Then, that kind of became a habit for me too. And it was just something that I, rinse and repeat, checked off my list. But that's what you want to do with everything. And like you said, it takes away the question of, okay, I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Like, what do I do today? It takes that guesswork away so that you're spending your time effectively, instead of just, okay, I scrolled through Facebook for 3 hours and then I wrote an email and then I did this. You have a lot more structure to your day.
Totally. Okay. So we have ClickUp, we have Slack. What's the third one?
So I would start with, especially if you're just getting started, digital file storage. Okay. So this is very, very simple, and very, it's basic, but something like Google Drive or Dropbox. And the reason I say this is because these get messy and get out of hand so quickly. Your G Drive can become a mess really, really, really fast. And you have to be able to know where to go find things in your business in order to, again, not drop the ball, especially if you're working with clients and maybe you are sharing documents with clients. And then when you get to the point you have team members, you have to know where things are at in your business in order for things to run smoothly. So I typically recommend Google Drive, and I set mine up. We just cleaned up yours too, actually.
Oh my God, you guys should see how beautiful my Google Drive looks. It's so pretty.
Yeah. So that's definitely, place number 3. So when I say like the big 3 in our virtual office, that's what you need. And then you obviously have things for like sending contracts and invoices that are going to be very, very important. Contracts are so important. I think that was actually the very first thing I ever purchased in my business was a contract, just because I was so scared. Like, I was like, what if somebody doesn't pay me? Or, what if I get sued? Like, when you first start your business, those are all those things that run through your head. But you need to find an effective and streamlined way for sending those contracts and sending invoices. And there are a couple of different softwares. I typically recommend HoneyBook. You'll hear things like Dubsado being thrown around. Satori is another option if you are a coach specifically. My personal favorite is HoneyBook, just because it is really, really user friendly. Dubsado is not a bad tool by any means. It does work, and a lot of people like Dubsado. It's just not, in my opinion, quite as user-friendly as other platforms. And so HoneyBook is typically what I recommend for sending invoices and contracts and using for scheduling and things like that. So that's where I would start too, from a CRM or client relationship management tool perspective, would be something like HoneyBook.
And with that, why this is important, you guys, is that I used to send a contract just like a PDF, and I would just send it through email, and they would have to figure out a way to get it printed and sign it and then scan it and then send it back to me. And I mean, technology is easier today because we have a scanner on most iPhones, but it's still, most people don't have printers. I shouldn't say that. Not everybody has a printer, but anyway, these systems allow you to do everything digitally, and it makes it so easy. We personally use Satori. I like it. I'd be interested in HoneyBook, but I'm fine with Satori for now. It's going to be a lot of one-on-one clients.
Yeah, Satori is an awesome tool too. My favorite thing about Satori is it tracks the number of calls that your clients have booked. That's my favorite feature, I think, about Satori. But it really, I think the thing to keep in mind when it comes to systems is it's all going to boil down to you evaluating what works best for you in your business, right? Because we can sit on here and talk to you guys all day about you should use ClickUp and you should use these things and these tools. But in the end, you have to make that decision for yourself. I think that's the big thing to take away from this is evaluate what's best for you and your business's needs. Because that's kind of, like what I talked about with, if we're constantly, if we're running a race and we're constantly looking at the person next to us, we're not focusing on our own race, and that's not helping our business. So evaluate it by, testing the tools out, see what works best for your business. That's not to say you should hop around and do that a lot, because that becomes a time suck and it's not really efficient. And we, I think, tend to get kind of shiny object syndrome in this space sometimes. Oh, this person's using this tool, I need to try it. Use what works best for you. That's I think that's the biggest thing is really just evaluate it from that perspective and see what works best for your business.
And a lot of times, this happens through trial and error. So that's why, Courtney has been at this for some time, really cultivating the best systems. She is an expert at this and she does know, but also ultimately, if you feel pulled to something that, if you're oh, I want Asana over ClickUp, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Asana is a great system too. It just ClickUp has different features and things that Asana can't do. So I agree with what you're saying. I mean, for me, I remember even just when I decided in the beginning of my business to invest in an email marketing system, that was a huge deal for me. I was like, oh, this is $25 a month. This is expensive. Like, oh, like this is an investment. I'm doing this. Like, it was a big deal. And it is a big deal when you're starting to make these moves in your business. I want you to know that, like, this is you're creating your future. And like Courtney was saying earlier about setting up your systems to align with your vision, that's so true. Like we've set up 7-figure systems for our business because that's where we're going. And, you know, I know so many of you want to create programs and want to have huge launches and serve a lot of students. And in order to do that, you really need to have the systems in place to handle it. Because imagine if Tony Robbins, when he first started, suddenly had 15,000 people in a room. He wouldn't have the bandwidth or the systems to be able to handle that many people. So this is all preparing you for where you want to go.
Yeah, 1,000%. And that's like when you're, prepping for things like launching a service or a product or a course or whatever it is, but you make sure that you have the internal infrastructures to support that. Like you just said, because like, I even remember like there was a point in time I was scared to market myself because I knew I was not stable in the back end to take on an influx of clients or students. And so then I kind of like got myself in this point where my business was just kind of on pause because I didn't have the systems in place to successfully onboard and manage a roster of students, right, or a client or an additional client, because your reputation is directly tied to your ability to grow too, right? Because so many of us rely on referrals and word of mouth in order to continue growing and bring in more students or clients or whatever it is. And so their experience, that client experience and journey, is going to directly correlate to you being able to get that referral. And so you want to make sure that the systems and the experience that they have working with you is a good one, because that's part of marketing, right? And that's part of growing your business too. And so you kind of need to look at it from that perspective. So build out the system, for your client, what that looks like to manage them on the back end, and then put yourself through it, like as a client, right? Like, how did this feel? Is it clunky? Was this hard to understand? Like you were talking about sending the contract via PDF, like, that was complicated, right? Like probably
it was complicated.
Yeah.
For them. It was like not a fun experience for them.
Exactly.
It made me realize like, whoa, like the experience that I want the person that's signing with me on the other side to have, I want it to be luxurious. I want it to be amazing. I want it to be white glove service. And so you need to think about, what are the values of your business? Like white glove service is a value that we have. So how can we create that experience for our clients and our students?
Yep, exactly. And what systems do you need in the back end to support making sure that happens, right? So that things don't get missed. I mean, I'm talking even something as simple as making sure that there's a recurring task every year on their birthday to send them a birthday gift, right? Like that's a client experience touch point for white glove service that you have systemized in the back end of your business and potentially could eventually delegate to a VA on your team to do. But that is systemizing those touch points. There's things like you could even systemize, an above and beyond suggestion for somebody, right? Like if you're working one-on-one with somebody, maybe it's like, okay, hey, let's just do a mental check-in with them today, and like systemize that in the back end of our business so that we're able to support that, right? Like we want to make sure that we're able to effectively systemize those touch points for our clients and nurturing them too.
Yeah, I love that so much, especially like the gift thing where, a lot of coaches like to send new clients gifts. And if like Courtney and I worked together for a year and she sent me this bracelet that I wear every single day. And I think about her every time I look at it and I love it. And it just was such a beautiful gift. And I mean, it's the thoughtfulness that comes along with the systems. Like it's really important. It's really important.
And life gets busy, and that people understand and get that. And so this is just a way for you to like systemize that so that things like that don't get missed. Like I said, it's all about making sure the balls don't get dropped. And what can I systemize in the back end to make sure that doesn't happen?
Totally. I love that so much. So I want you to share a little bit about, so Courtney's actually going to come into the Big Coach Energy Facebook group, and she's going to show you how to do this. Like, she is going to show you 5 systems that you need to scale your coaching business, and way more like, this was super in depth, but it's going to be way more in depth. And we really want you to come. It's completely free. It's going to be so, so epic. And then you can learn more about how she can actually help you do this in your business and just get a ton of value and get so much good information to be able to start to really put this into action.
Yeah.
So want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the training, it's going to be August 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Like she mentioned, we're going to go live and do this training. But we are going to cover 5 systems to basically scale your coaching business that you need. And the biggest thing that I think I want you guys to like take away from this are things that you can actually turn around and implement in your business. Like I mentioned for, probably the 10th time, I'm not a fluff person, and I want people to be able to take things away that they can actually work on to make this simpler for them. Because again, I know systems not everybody's jam, right? Like, that's not what everybody likes to do. And so we wanted to find a way to break it down for you guys that was simple and something that we could easily integrate into your business. And so we're going to cover operational systems, project management systems, communication systems, sales, and client management systems. So those 5 core operational systems to your business, we're going to break each of them down. I'm going to give you examples of what some of those things were going to look like. I'm going to give you a checklist so that you can kind of audit your current state of your business in terms of each of those systems, so that it makes it really, really easy to do. Also, if you have a VA, this is something that you can have your VA come in and support you with as well. After you watch this training, maybe there's some things that they can help you implement. And then if you haven't started using ClickUp yet, that's totally fine. But we're also going to give you guys a ClickUp template that you can actually take some of these things and it's kind of like a checklist, so to speak, and evaluate yourself on each of these systems. And then again, that's something that you can either start implementing yourself, delegating to team. But we really want to make sure that you guys are walking away feeling really, really good about the direction you're heading with systems, or what you potentially need to be auditing and altering and changing to successfully scale.
And you guys, I have seen this ClickUp template and it is amazing. Like, you're going to want this, and it's free. So it's really, really, really good. It's not just some empty template like that people give out. It is fully loaded and really, really impactful. So really excited about your template. Love
and
templates.
and if you haven't used ClickUp before, and if this sounds overwhelming, there will be a video on how to use the template. So I don't want that to, scare you away by any means. That's something that we are going to basically hold your hand through. There's a guide on how to use it. There's a video. It's plug in and play. It's super, super simple. Again, we want to take out of all the guesswork and, the scary systems stuff out of it for you. So.
Totally. And if your vision is to level up in your business, if your vision is to have a multiple 6-figure, 7-figure and beyond business, and maybe you're feeling some type of way as you listen to this, like, oh my God, I have so much to do. Oh my God, I have so much to set up. We want to help you take a deep breath. And that's why this training is going to help you, right? Like, this is going to help you. And if you feel like you want to run the other way, I want to empower you to stay. I want to empower you to show up. I want to empower you to stay with your vision, because the vision is leading you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Courtney is amazing. Obviously. I'm so grateful for you, Court. Like, you guys have no idea. I mean, she has helped our business in just so many incredible ways. And she's just amazing and knows her shit. I mean, even ClickUp contacts her and like wants her to like set things up for that. Like, it's crazy. Like, they love her too. So she's really amazing. And I can't wait for you guys to get to know her more and experience her energy and her training. So we will link that up in the show notes, the link to join the training. It will also be linked to join in the event in the Badass Manifester. No, cut. The training will also be linked up in the Big Coach Energy Facebook group. So there'll be an event in the Facebook group with the link to sign up for the training. You have to sign up in order to get the template. So make sure you sign up.
Yep. And if you can't attend live, we will be sending out there will be a replay available. So you guys can have that as well. But you do have to be signed up to get access to the replay as well.
Yeah. And listen, I'm the type of person that is total visionary, total like not a down in the details type of person. But working with ClickUp has really truly helped me. Like all of these systems have truly helped me just blow up. So we want to help you do that too. So thank you, Courtney, so much for leading this free training and being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I could talk about this stuff all day. So this is so much fun for me, and obviously love chatting with you about it because this is what we do together all the time. So
this is what we do.
What we do.
I need to just ask you one thing. What makes you a badass manifester?
Ooh, that's a good one. Put me on the spot. I would say I think my ability to adapt and change when I need to. I think that's one thing that I have kind of had to learn to accept in this space is like things shift and change all the time, and you've got to be willing to shift and pivot with them. And normally that would be very uncomfortable for me. But I feel like I've kind of started to master the pivoting and the changing and just kind of embracing it versus letting it paralyze me. So I feel like that's something that's helped me get down that road to being a badass manifester.
Yeah, you are a badass manifester. Come on. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, where can everyone follow you and connect with you?
Sure. So you guys can come follow us over on Instagram. We are at The Elevate Effect. Our website is the same, www.theelevateeffect.com. And we also recently just switched over to Mighty Networks for our community. So we have a free community, all things systems for coaches. We do live trainings once a month. And stuff in there. So if you want to check out our Mighty Networks, the link is in the bio for my Instagram account for you guys to access that as well. So
amazing. Amazing. All right, y'all. We'll see you at the free training August 4th. Can't wait.
Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at ManifestWithAsh. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.